Welcome to the Redvee TV Show, supported by Chapel House Cars for the 2024 season, as we return with our 2024 player reviews. Now, Kev, we did big preview shows on each player during the season. We've talked about them all year long, so these are going to be short but sweet, 5 minutes each player, giving our views on how we felt they've gone this year. We are not going to grade them because what might be an A for a youth player and a C for an established first teamer doesn't necessarily mean the youth player is a better player than the first teamer. It's literally a case of how they've gone in comparison to how probably we thought they'd go at the start of the year. So we're not
Yep,
grading them. We are going to give qualitative opinions and not quantitative ones.
but always quality.
Indeed. So today we are going to do 1 to 5, Kevin, which means number one, we will start. Oh, I pressed the wrong button. We we will start with our number one, Jack Wellsby. Go on then.
Um, you know what? It's a tough one because of the season that we've had. I think Jack has obviously been one of our most productive players. Still coming up with try assists, having to change position as well and go into the halves. So switching what he kind of does during a game. Um, but I think towards the end of the season, once he got his injury, was he quite fully fit for that end of season? And that's what kind of could taint your view over the rest of the year. The fact that he probably wasn't quite on his game, especially before the Warrington playoff game. He wasn't quite on his game as much as we needed him to be. And that's not his fault. But we probably needed, and I think we'll be saying this about quite a few players, we probably needed 2 or 3 weeks of him being firing at his full potential. But as the season goes, still think he played, was it 25 games across the year, something like that. Still chipped in with pretty much try every other game. I just think the injuries obviously massively disrupted what he brings to the team.
Yeah, obviously we missed him after he got that injury at Lee and we got absolutely banjoed. But the games he missed, the games we lost in that time, Wigan 20-0, Hull KR beat us 42-6, Warrington 16-2. I was looking at him thinking, do you know what? If he isn't injured, the Saints get another 2 points along the way there, and you probably say they don't.
Well, it depends because Warrington, I don't think Warrington in that game were brilliant. So if you've got a game breaker in that game, someone who can make something happen, then you arguably do. I know Warrington could always go up through the gears, but arguably, does he bring you that stability? And does he bring more plays into the game?
See,
Possibly more at one than half.
and this is where I think he's been underwhelming this year in terms of
Okay.
I don't think we've seen that game breaking X factor from him, and I don't necessarily think it's his fault. I think it's been the players around him. That back line, I think for the first 15, 20 games, did we ever play the same back line twice? Um, there's no point Jack Wellsby making a break when there's no pace around him to finish it off. Um, I think obviously he got the massive deal at last December. It was announced. Obviously when the NRL was sniffing around. Has he had a good season as he has the last couple of years? Probably not. But again, we're going to be saying that for everyone. It's going to be interesting to see how Jack goes next season. I think he needs to have a better season than this one. I don't think he's really stamped his authority on games. You've not never come away from a game thinking Jack Wellsby's been the standout star in that game.
That's probably a good criticism. I'll go back to you saying he's not really done anything, but he's at the players around him. So, do I think he's been underwhelming? I don't necessarily think he's been underwhelming, but with the tools he's had around him and the lack of stability around him, I'm not going to say it's his fault. Although I will say, I think you're absolutely right that I want to see him take games by the scruff of the neck. I think we saw that a little bit more in that Warrington playoff game, that he was back towards what you want Jack Welsby to be in them big games. Absolutely right.
Yeah. And I think just to go what we were saying before we started doing Jack's review, when I say underwhelming, I mean underwhelming by Jack's own standards.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Tommy Makinson. Again, early in the year, I felt he was absolutely starved of ball. And then at the end of the year, when it comes to the crunch and we started giving him the right ball, he was doing what Tommy Makinson has always done and
yeah,
scoring in the corner for fun in the acrobatic style that only he can. Um, Listen, he's got a great offer to go to Catalan for the next 2 years. And hopefully he has a great 2 years down there. But I've seen people saying, well, why didn't we give him another deal? Well, potentially we offered him a deal, but if Tommy wants to end his career in France and try something new after the service he's given us, you can't blame him. But equally as well, you can't talk about an aging team but then want to give a 33-year-old, soon to be 34 next year, a 2 year deal. Will he be missed? Yes, because the way he carries the ball out, the way he finishes tries, I don't think that's dimmed somewhat. Did he carry it out as hard from our own line as he's done in previous years? Probably not. There is probably that sign of age creeping in. But again, as a finisher, still unbeatable for me. And I think Catalan are going to see not the best of him, but a very, very good Tommy Makinson for the next couple of years.
yeah. I agree with that. I think Catalan will get some good game time out of him. I think Tommy's got a standard that he sets. Whether that standard is on the way down, as you say, because just of age, there's nothing you can do about that. It's just what happens when you start getting towards the end of a career. Then, yeah, I completely get that. Um, I think he's still been one of those who can come through the season. No one will be happy with the season as a whole, but if he looks back on what he's done, he's still someone who can hold his head up high. I think he's still someone who has run the ball in as hard as he can, whether it's still as effective as it is, whether teams know that they can shut him down. And as you say, when a winger like Tommy Makins is starved of the ball, when you've got that strikeout on the wing, no matter if he's 33 or whatever, it just means that the season's probably disappointing. But again, is that due to us playing down the middle rather than being able to get it out wide and playing the expansive stuff? And that makes his season disappointing by his standards. But it's because he hasn't had the ball or didn't get the ball in those dangerous positions. That said, still 14 tries from 21 appearances. Not a bad return, but I'm sure Tommy, playing for Saints, would be looking for more.
Yeah,
If he's not at the ball, he can't do that.
previous 2 years, 24 and 22 tries. Obviously, he's made less appearances this year because he keeps getting himself sent off.
Yeah, I think that's one thing as well. A couple of bans for him. Yeah, I don't think he'll be looking back on the Castleford game we went on and won handsomely, but I don't think he'll be looking back at some of them and
When you think of the
putting them in
games
the
he's missed, though,
highlights.
they were stupid cards. And I still don't agree with them. He's gone for the tackle, and
Yeah,
it is what it is. I'll still
there's
say
another
now
show.
he's finished. I, I want to say Tommy is up there as one of my all-time favourite Saints players. I think Jamie Lyon for that 2 year spell he had was absolutely magical. I don't think I'll see a player like him again. But definitely in terms of winger, uh, Tommy Makinson's my all-time winger for Saints. Uh, I don't think he'll be surpassed. I think he's that good. Just for the period of time he's actually done it over. I know this is
Yeah,
a review of the season, but it would be remiss of us to talk about his 15 years and just say, what a man, what a player.
You know what? And he's a thoroughly nice fella as well, isn't he? We saw him the other day, and he said, "Don't boo me when I come back, lads." Now we can't promise that, Tom.
What did I
Especially if we
say to him,
score a lot.
Kev?
Go on.
I'm going to boo the out of you next
Yeah, well,
season.
yeah.
All-time
Yeah,
favourite or not?
yeah. No, you're right to look back on his whole career and say that, especially in your lifetime, in my lifetime, he's up there with the best backs we've had at this club. He's got to be. He's done it over such a sustained period, scored tries, got us out of our own D by putting his body on the line. Yeah, he's been a great servant for the club, and you know what? He owes us nothing. Good looking Castellan, apart from when he plays.
When you say he owes us nothing, how about a red card in the first minute when we played them?
Well, that'll do. That'll do, Tom.
Oh, like let's end it now. Half-hour episode.
um, Came in with absolutely no pre-season for about half a dozen games around about May time, I think it was. Looked like he was getting some fitness, possibility of a winger there. I don't think he's a centre. I don't think he showed anything to be a centre. And then it all tailed off, and he showed that he wasn't a Saints standard rugby player. He probably, at some point, wasn't a witness under 12's seventh team rugby player with some of the decisions he made. You just think that, was his confidence shot? Don't know. Was his ability not up there? Was his fitness not up there? Was his attitude not up there? Not entirely sure. But some of the decisions he made, he got called out by Paul Sculthorpe in his column. And you could tell week after week before he actually named him who he was talking about. Unfortunately, one of those signings that just did not work. And we've had him in the past. We've had various players we've brought in the past. It's one of them that, see you later, Wonga. Yeah.
But I could be like Jose Mourinho here and say, if I speak, I will get myself into trouble. Well, I'll
Yeah.
just say, Kev, so first 5 games of the year, we won the first 3. We lost 24-20 to Salford at home. How damaging was that loss in terms of
Yeah.
our playoff hopes when you look back now? Stupidity was that where we got the red card.
Percy got sent off.
Percy got sent off. We'll remember that when we get to Percy in a minute. Uh, and then we went to Leeds away in the league. It was the 15th of March. We won 18 points to 8, and I distinctly remember sitting next to you and saying to you, I watched Wonga Blake and he doesn't look fit. His hands are on his knees. He doesn't look like he wants to be here. He doesn't look like a Saints player. And I think the conversation we had at the time was basically, do you know what? You've got to give him time to bed in. I'm being
Yeah.
a bit premature on that one. And you're right, he fooled us for a few games later on. But my gut instinct, he just never looked like he really wants to be here, or he never really looked like he knew where he was.
I think, as you say, once you get past that period of, you're going to have a dip in form, and then you need to come back out the other end of it. As an overseas player, as a quarter player as well, you need to be coming out of that dip and showing why he's over here. Surely he's fighting for a contract somewhere. Um, yeah, you did say it early. I was willing to give him time to get his fitness. He got it for a bit, and then it just disappeared. And we're not even going to go into detail about alleged indiscretions off the field, which just took the focus off what he could do as a player. He ended up with a fan chant, which apparently he didn't like. But you know what? You go out and do that type of thing, you've gotta just let it wash over you.
I am going to call it, pound for pound, the worst Saints player ever. Given
Worse
the
than Paul
fact,
Davidson.
given the fact that he's come from the NRL with that, with I suppose pedigree, 88 appearances for Penrith, 77 for Parramatta, and I can't actually believe he scored 11 tries for Saints in 24 games.
11 and 24. Like, yeah, but I think quite a few of them came in. Like, there was a hat trick against Cass, there was two against London, there was two in another game as well.
Falling
So,
over the line.
well, it's more the case of, I think, when you see stuff like that, you think that kind of boosts stat pads.
Stats are like bikinis.
Correct answer.
Um,
But that's it. You say that though. Like, I look at, say, Daryl Trindle as well, who's up there, who made up like 150 appearances for South Sydney in the 90s. Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
but you think he came over to Saints, and obviously there was bits going on. He only played for us twice,
Yeah.
and I know I said the other day that the only thing that saved Wonga Blake from being the worst Saints player ever was uh, Paul Davidson.
Yeah.
Now I sometimes think, do you know what? Is that harsh on Paul Davidson? I listen. It's a fuzzy memory now because I was probably a bit young at the time, but a lot of that was due to attitude
Yeah.
and the way he was with fans at the time. Um, but you think Paul Davidson came from Oldham
Yeah.
and was probably at the expected level that you probably expect when you sign a player from the Oldham Bears. So for me, Wonga Blake, you're in the bin, room 101, the worst ever. And I said we weren't going to grade people on this, but I am. And if we're going from A to best, F to worst, you are a Z.
Ungraded.
No, that's higher than a Z. A
A
U is higher
fail.
than a Z. Z, gone, banished.
Okay.
I hope they've got good
Moving on.
nightclubs back in Australia. So we've just decided Mark Percival cost us our season when we got sent off against Salford at home.
Mark Percival almost kept us in our season when he booted that touchline goal against Warrington in the playoffs and shouldn't have been shoveled the ball onto him in golden point for him to have a swing at it.
But do you know
Uh,
what? Do you know what? I've been thinking about that in hindsight. How many times have Wigan used that tactic of switching it wide on the last tackle, getting it to the winger, and hitting it long? Like Liam Marshall's the master at it. When Wigan are penned in deep, they swing it right on the last tackle, and Liam Marshall takes it down the wing and boots it long, and they gain field position from it. It'd be a question that somebody would have to ask Johnny. What was the thinking on that last play? Was it try and gain that extra 10 or 15 meters? Because I can't
it
believe we
probably
tried to
was.
score.
No, it probably was to try and get meters. I'm still of the ilk that you've got a proper experienced halfback there. He needs to be putting his foot through the ball and trusting the outside backs in Makinson and Percival to make that chase and go and get them. And if we're doing that, then why have we not given it to Tommy Makinson so he could try one of his put his foot through it as
Nobody told
probably
Percy the plan.
the longest kicker at the club. But yeah, I've with Percy, if we were grading him, I'd grade Percy quite highly. In kind of against what I expect from him. He just looked like he was carrying that back line at times, like with Tommy missing games, with Connie missing games. We needed someone who was going to get us out of those tricky positions, someone who just would run the ball in as hard and as fast as he could do. And Percy was that man. Yeah, I don't think Percy's had a bad season. Try scoring wise, it surprised me. I had a little look. He only got 6 this year. But again, is that because of the way that we've played rather than being a little bit more expansive? Not entirely sure. And there's been big games that he's missed. Like he missed the quarter final of the Challenge Cup when you need all of your big players on the park. You need all your players on there. And we didn't turn up that day, and that was a day that Warrington completely deservedly took the win. But yeah, I think Percy's had a good season. and giving him that.
Yeah, do you know what? People talk about Mark Percival being injury prone, but he still made, was it 23 appearances this year? And a couple of the games he's missed with bans as well. I think he missed Hull in August for a ban.
Yeah,
I think he missed, was it 2 games he missed after he got sent off against Salford?
I think so.
Um, so in reality, this year he would have made what, 26 appearances essentially
Yeah.
in total. That's not injury prone for me. I think we can put that one to bed.
I think the one thing I would say, and obviously this will probably come into when we do his preview next year, is you don't want to be putting Percy through some of these games. You want to be able to have the luxury of resting him.
Yeah, sorry, 21 appearances for Percy this year, so he probably would have got to about 24, 25. And
Yeah,
I think you're quite right. I'd rather see Percy play 21 games and the games he misses are because you've got the ability to put your Harry Robertsons, your Johnny Vaughans in and give them game time. Because I think
yeah,
we'll talk about this probably for next season. We need to be playing young players more often when the team are
yeah,
fit, rather than expecting them to all come in together because of injuries. And I think that's something we've done really poorly over the last
yeah,
year or two. Um, you'll see Wigan and the likes put youngsters in when the team is fully fit. You've got to bed them in. So again, Noah Stevens next season will need to be in plenty of the time.
yeah,
Johnny Ball needs a lot of game time. Harry Robertson might not be first choice anywhere in that back line, but I want him to see him play 12, 15 games next year to allow
I,
the likes of Percy and that to get them weeks off. Because I think it started to show towards the end of the year. The lads who played all year and
yeah,
hadn't got injured were flogged because of that.
yeah. Agreed. And we'll get onto that especially when we come to people like Matty Lees. Um, I want Percy to be able to have the week off against your likes of Castleford at home when they're not playing as well, Hull at home.
Anytime.
I'm saying this is the teams who are down towards the bottom end of the league,
Yeah.
you like London at home and things like that. Your bottom three, you don't want to have to be throwing Percy out there. London at home may well, as it was this year, first game of the year, so he is going to play in it. But you want to be able to manage your big game players. If they end up missing more, then so be it because of injury or suspension, and so be it. That's unlucky, but you need to be able to give players like this the odd week off to go, just rest yourself up. You've got that little bit of a knee issue, calf issue, arm issue, whatever it is. Have a little bit of time.
Unless we sign a centre and we are going with Conrad next year, who would you play outside Percy? I suspect it'll be Kyle Felt because if you're going to play Connie in the centres, you're going to need some speed outside of him in terms of like Lewis Murphy to compensate. So
I think this is I think this is a conversation for another show, probably. But I don't know. We got it spectacularly wrong on T. Ritson starting the season. It wouldn't surprise me if we didn't just leave it as is and have Murphy on the left wing outside Percy and Kyle Felton, Connie on the other wing, just because we were going with Tommy and Connie anyway on that side at the start of last season.
okay, last but not least for this episode, John Bennison. I'm gonna say this is the player I've most flip-flopped over in 2024. At times, I thought it should have been it. Well, I started off the start of the year tonight by saying I thought T. Ritson should get the shirt for 5, 6 games at least to see how he goes. It wasn't. It was John Bennison. Then halfway through the year, I'm saying I don't think John Bennison's good enough to be a Saints player. And do we even keep him next season? He made the mistake. It was Salford away, wasn't he? Salford away. Yeah, he made a few errors there, and I think I called him out on the show afterwards and said I think it's time to make a change. We made the change. That didn't work out. John Bennison came in, and then for the last 3 or 4 games of the year, I thought was excellent. And I think I said to you at Warrington, I think this has nailed the discussion for who is your third choice winger next season because John Bennison coming into a full strength Saints side doesn't look out of place.
He doesn't. And I think if we're reviewing him and kind of putting them against where you think they should be as a level. I think you're right with John that it's been, like you saying, you're flip flopping over him. I think that's the type of season it's been, where he started the season and he's ended the season, and in the middle it was touch and go and very, very wobbly at times. He got the old Shepherd's Crook against Huddersfield when we beat him 13-12. And that wasn't necessarily his fault. We just changed the personnel that we were playing with there. And it worked for us.
I don't think you'll see him at
John,
fullback again.
no, I don't think Harry Robertson's overtaken him there. Unless there's an issue where we've got a load of halves out and we've had to move Sailor and Robertson into the halves, for example. John is one of them players who is an absolutely cracking squad player to have, who has a point to prove. Probably not to himself, but probably to a section of the fan base who think that he's not good enough. I think we've been quite open in saying I don't think he's a Saints starting winger, but you're right. He comes into the first choice. In the last 5 games, I think he's been first choice on that left wing. Scored a hat-trick against Cass. I bet T. Ritson was looking at that, saying, why aren't I in this game? I think there was one that we get a penalty, or it was a play the ball on the right side, and I actually turned to, whether it was you or whoever's next to me, and said, Bedison's going in here. And we swung it out wide, and he did. He went in at the corner. He's looked comfortable there. He's looked safe there. If John Bedison has that type of confidence, then as a backup, and I'm guessing at wages, salary cap, and all that, as a probably inexpensive backup who can play a couple of positions, then he's a valuable member of a squad. And I think, as I say, than you thought it was going to, because it looked like T. Ritson was going to get that shot at the left wing berth, but he just didn't keep hold of it, and John got in there. So again, John's season, like a lot, probably not as good as he wanted, but he's finished it strongly, and he'll take that confidence into the off season.
Yeah, I've seen the conversations that people have and saying, well, why are we keeping John Bennison on when we've got T. Ritson for another year? In terms of when you're making up your squad, and I'd say, okay, I get the argument for that, but I would be arguing that John Bennison is miles now above T. Ritson in the pecking order, and in that case, I'd be looking to shift T on. If you can get somebody to take on his wage or where he's going to get game time next season, I think I'd be offloading him as best I can. He can go on loan for a year, which is what you usually do, isn't it? Just in case you need them back. But for me, John Bennison, I don't think he'll have the 5 share next year.
No, I don't.
But I'll say towards the end of the year, yeah, he's not a Saints starting winger, but as a third choice to come in if there's an injury, you know you're going to be safe there.
I think as well, and one thing I'm going to say about John compared to other people kind of in and around the squad, one who has been released and we've did 2 shirts ago, is the attitude that he puts in when he's on the field. Even if he's making mistakes or whatever, the attitude that he displays on the field is miles above them. And he's somebody that some players need to have a look at. I think that is what I need to. That's what I need to do. No matter if you've come from the NRL or Runcorn, like John, it doesn't matter. You just need that willingness to work. Yeah, again, that's what's got him in the squad. That's what keeps him in this squad. That's why we've given him another year. Is he a speedster? Not necessarily. Is he a good finisher? He's all right on his day. He's a fullback playing out on the wing. But yeah, in and around the squad, you're going to need this type of player. You're going to need this type of player.
Yeah, you say we've given him another year, but nobody's announced it yet.
No,
We're guessing he has since he's not been on the release list.
Yeah, the journals have given him another year, but the club hasn't yet.
I think Wello talked about it in a presser.
I think he did, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll get out to this cupboard and go and ask him. Try and get out to this cupboard and go and ask him.
Right, that's 1 to 5 done. We'll return over the weekend and do 6 to 10, maybe Monday or Tuesday next week. We'll spread them out. Got to keep the content coming.
There's nothing else happening at the minute.
Nope. Let's see if we can topple 250,000 views in 2024. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll catch you very, very soon for another episode of Redvee TV.